Hello students, welcome to the first lecture of the chapter Evolution. I am Mouchandra Paul, and let's begin. Let's talk about how did universe, let's talk about the origin of the universe. It was quite a unique event, okay, and the universe is very big, okay, it's very big, and it's very old, which that is around people estimate the age of the universe to be 20 billion years old. And relatively speaking, the age of the earth and the size of the earth is like much lesser than universe, or you can say that earth is a small speck of dust in the huge ocean of the universe. And also earth is very much younger than the universe itself. The universe consists of large number of galaxies, and it also and each of these galaxies consists of stars and clouds of dust and gases only. People actually proposed a theory called Big Bang theory to explain how did universe actually origin, right? The origin of the universe was explained by a proposed theory called Big Bang theory. So according to this theory, what happened that very long time ago, a huge explosion happened, okay, because of which the matter, it expanded over the time. And as it expanded, temperature of the universe came down. Because of lower temperature, the gases, they started to condense, and now helium and hydrogen gases were formed, and which later on gave rise to present day galaxies. So that is how Big Bang theory can be explained. Our Earth is present in a galaxy called Milky Way galaxy, and this within this galaxy, the Earth was formed at around 4.5 billion years ago. All right, the people say the age of the Earth is around 4.5 billion years, and it was formed in the solar system of the galaxy Milky Way. At the time of the formation of Earth, the conditions were actually not as was the condition today. At that time, Earth didn't have any atmosphere. Also, majority of the Earth's surface was covered with water vapors, then methane, carbon dioxide, and ammonia. And these gases and water vapors, they were released from the land, which was still in its molten phase. As the sun uh, emitted its UV rays, right? So these UV rays, they landed on the Earth's surface and gave the necessary heat energy to break down water vapors into hydrogen and oxygen molecules. Hydrogen molecule being very light in weight, it escaped towards the topmost atmospheric layer of the Earth, okay? And whereas the oxygen, it remained towards the surface, towards the land, and combined with other gases like ammonia and methane to form more molecules of water and carbon dioxide. Now, these molecules of water and carbon dioxide actually led to the formation of the ozone layer that we know of today. Now, this ozone layer, has a very important role of protecting us from the harmful wavelength of the UV rays. Now, after ozone layer was formed, the high temperature UV wavelength, it couldn't penetrate the surface anymore, because of which the Earth's surface became cooler. The overall temperature of the Earth became colder, and it actually allowed water vapors which is present in the Earth's surface as well as in the above elevated areas. These water vapors, they condensed, okay, they condensed into water, and then fell on the Earth's surface as rain. So clouds were formed and rain happened. So basically, it is the beginning of the water cycle that you must have learned in your previous classes. So because of the rain, all the land surface, wherever there were huge crates and depressions on the surfaces, there the water filled, which gave rise to water bodies like oceans, rivers, lakes, etc. So after the formation of these water bodies, life appeared, and people propose that the life appeared at around 4 billion years ago. So that is how you know uh, Earth, how the conditions at the Earth, it has moved gradually over the time and became what it is we know. Now, after Earth has given a environment, um, it was suitable for origin of life, and life appeared 500 million years after the formation of Earth, or 4 million years ago. So people propose various theories on how the first life could have evolved. So first, one of this theory is called panspermia theory. Okay. Now, according to this theory, the scientists who proposed this theory, they say that life actually came from the outer space. Okay. And it's quite an interesting theory, and many people still now believe that. So what they say is, from the outer space, for small units of life called spores, they must have entered the earth from somewhere in the outer space, and these spores actually gave rise to life. Then there's another theory. Of course, this theory was difficult to prove wrong, or or even to prove right. So it's just a theory, and still now there is no scientific basis to support this theory. Then another group of scientists, after some years, proposed another theory called the theory of spontaneous generation, to explain how did life originate in Earth. So according to this theory, they say that life actually came out of decaying and rotting matter, okay, like straw and mud. So so they say that if they keep uh, decomposing straw or mud, eventually they will see life crawling out of it. Okay, so this theory was actually proved wrong by a scientist named Louis Pasteur. So Louis Pasteur is the name you must have heard various time, right? Previously than this. So he did a very small experiment. What he did, he took two flasks. Okay, one flask, say flask one, it was sterilized, meaning if any traces of any microorganism, if it were present initially, because of the sterilization process, all those microbes would be killed. So the first flask, it was sterilized, and it was kept in a closed environment so that the surrounding air cannot touch the surface of this particular flask. And in this flask, he kept killed yeast, small mass of killed yeast. Okay. And in another flask he took, it was not sterilized, and it was kept in an open environment. But within the flask, here also he kept small mass of killed yeast. So both the flask had killed yeast, but one was closed, one was in closed environment and it was sterilized. Another flask, it was open to air and it was not sterilized. So after a few days, what he saw was, in the first flask, there was no growth of any new living organisms. Like he couldn't see any microbes growing out of the killed yeast. Whereas in the second flask, he did see some new living organisms. So from this, he said that, see, theory of spontaneous generation, where you're saying that from the non-living organism, like from non-living things, a straw and mud, you're saying that new life is coming. That is absolutely wrong. But what actually happens in pre-existing life form, like in this case, yeast, actually was able to give rise to, or was able to promote the growth of new life. So he said that life only comes from pre-existing life. Okay. So death of the yeast is decomposing mass. It provided nutrients, okay, for the growth of new microorganisms that was present either at the surface of the flask or in the surrounding air. So because of which new living organisms he could see in the second flask. So this was Louis Pasteur disproving the theory of spontaneous generation. Now there was another theory to propose how life originated on Earth. This theory was called chemical evolution theory. It was proposed by two scientists living at two different countries, actually. The name of the one scientist was Operin. He was living in Russia. And another person, his name was Haldane, and he was living in England. Okay. And together they came up with this particular theory. So according to them, they said that the first form of life, they could have come from the pre-existing non-living organic molecules. Okay. So theory of spontaneous generation, they said that life come spontaneously, right, from mud and straw, etc., like soil. Okay, but here what they are saying, it is coming from non-living things, but non-living organic molecules. Okay, that were formed before, and it actually going to help and give rise to a new life. So what kind of organic molecules they are saying? So they said that first RNA, proteins, etc., they were formed, okay, and together they gave rise to pre-existing life. So according to them, the formation of life, it was preceded by the chemical evolution. So what is chemical evolution? Chemical evolution, if you have guessed, you are correct. It means the formation of diverse organic molecules from the pre-existing inorganic constituents. Like, as I explained already, that during the early years of the earth formation, there was only, gases like ammonia, methane, carbon dioxide, water vapors. So these are all inorganic molecules, right? Giving rise to atoms like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, etc. But now we know from our organic chemistry knowledge that carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, are the main atoms which can together give rise to all sorts of organic molecules that we know of, right? So chemical evolution says that only, that these inorganic constituents, these inorganic atoms, they have combined in such a way that a diverse array of organic molecules have has formed in Earth. And these organic molecules, they gave rise to the first form of life. Now, this theory of chemical evolution, it was actually proved experimentally by a scientist named S.L. Miller in 1953. Okay, so what he did, he actually tried to mimic early Earth's environmental condition in his lab using this particular setup. Okay, so in this setup, he mimicked the conditions like high temperature, okay, then volcanic eruptions. Because of this volcanic eruption, high temperature was there, as well as gases, mixture of gases was there in the surrounding environment, and these gases were reducing in nature, that is rich in hydrogen. So it contained a mixture of gases like ammonia, methane, hydrogen, water vapors, etc. So in this particular setup, he mimicked the same thing. How? He took a closed flask like this, okay, and within that he used electrodes to create spark, okay, and within this closed flask there were a mixture of gases, all the gases which I already listed, like methane, ammonia, hydrogen, water vapors. Okay, so in this flask, this particular circular flask, he successfully created a temperature of 800 degrees Celsius with all the gases inside it. Now, for continued supply of water vapors, he used this channel shown with arrow. Okay, and this another a round flask where the water was in boiling state and released vapors, and these vapors then entered this particular uh, microenvironment, okay, of this flask. So as the temperature and gases were there, and over the time he saw that some kind of reaction has happened. Okay, so because of which whatever water that was getting condensed, like through the condenser, the temperature was relatively lower than the 800 degrees Celsius. Now this water was coming and getting collected at this spot. When he analyzed this water sample, he saw that it contained various kind of organic molecules. Okay, so in this experiment, he saw that amino acids were formed. Others who replicated Miller's experimental setup, they found more types of organic molecules to be formed, like sugars, like carbohydrates, nitrogen bases, fats, pigments, etc. So this particular setup, with the help of this particular setup, Miller and many others proved chemical evolution to be true. Like that is what must have happened um, prior to formation of a life. Okay, means all the organic molecules that we know, DNA, RNA, protein, etc. So these were formed first. Okay, and they together worked in such a way that a life is created. Life was created over the millions of years. Now, can we now look at how the first life form came about? Okay, so we saw that how the origin of the universe is explained, that is through Big Bang theory. Then after the universe is formed, Earth originated, which is a small planet in comparison to the universe, size of the universe, and it's quite young. And the Earth, what was the condition of the Earth during the early years when just after it was formed? Then we saw how the conditions of the earth become more and more favorable towards um, uh, favorable for life to thrive. And then we saw various theories that scientists over the years have proposed um, on how life originated. Okay, the theory of spontaneous generation, then chemical evolution theory. So among the three theories that we talked about, chemical evolution theory is to be is people assume that it is more towards what must have happened. Okay, more towards showing the real picture. Okay, so considering we have understood chemical evolution theory, I will move on to explain what people have said about how first form of life came about. So people date the first non-cellular form of life to form on Earth to that happened at around 3 billion years ago. So 3 billion years ago, people have dated the formation of the first non-cellular form of life. So what do you mean by non-cellular? What is like exactly non-cellular form of life? So they said that first small capsules, like small isolated spherical shaped or cylindrical shaped capsule type of structure, within which all the types of organic molecules like RNA, protein, sugars, they were encapsulated within this particular capsule-like structures. And these were actually non-cellular form of life. And they also proposed that um, maybe within these capsules, some mechanism have evolved that helped in replication of the organic molecules that were present. Okay, so it was, and it happened at around 3 billion years ago. Okay, so after the formation of the Earth, after 1.5 billion years ago, starting from the formation of the Earth, first, uh, hint of life have evolved. Now, after the formation of this type of non-cellular capsules, okay, non-cellular form of life, these capsules evolved into cells, okay, that is, they evolved into cellular form of life, and it happened at around 2000 million years ago. So, comparatively speaking, life originated quite recently. If you compare with the age of the earth, it happened quite recently. And the early form of life, early cells, they were single celled. Okay, initially, only one cell at a time, they evolved. And these cells only lived in water. So they loved the aqueous environment. And over the years, people say that, various, forms of life, they evolved to become fishes, then amphibians, the mammals, etc. So with that, we will talk about the later topics. So this process of formation of life is called biogenesis, or to define more formally, biogenesis means formation of life from non-living molecules. Here, non-living molecules means the organic molecules like RNA, protein, etc. From there, you get cellular form of life. That is biogenesis. Now, now life has formed. Cells are created 2000 million years ago. Now, how these cells actually evolved to today's, complex and diverse range of living organisms that we see, like plants, animals of various species, and they display various unique features, and they're inhabited in all parts of the world, right? So how did they evolve? So for that, various theories again people proposed. First one actually comes from the religious text from various religions like Christian, Hindu, etc. And this theory says that all the living organisms that we see today were created as such. Okay, diversity was always the same since the creation. Okay, since the creation of the earth, and will be same in future also. And they date, and within this religious text, they date the age of the earth to be 4,000 years ago. Now, these are all based on, one person's belief, and he propagated his ideas to large populations of people. So they were not backed by any scientific experiment or anything like that. So in the 19th century, when science was evolving, these ideas were challenged. These ideas were challenged scientists at that time. So very, very common name you must have heard is Charles Darwin. Okay. And in this chapter, we'll talk more about it and his theory of evolution. And Charles Darwin's theory of evolution is, is absolutely true because people have repeatedly shown through experiments, through scientific arguments, that his theory actually applies. So how did he actually come up with this theory? So during his sea voyage in his ship named HMS Beagle, okay, he actually traveled around the world, all right, and made some very interesting observations. What he saw, that all the existing life forms, they share a lot of similarities among themselves, all right? They share a lot of similarities among themselves. But they also share similarities with the life forms that existed millions of years ago before them. So the similarities, although very small amount of similarity, but it still existed between the life form of the present day and between the life form that existed millions of years ago. So they are now termed as ancestors. So all the life forms share similarities with their ancestors, however long they existed. So if the ancestor was, you know, lived millions of years ago, and then the similarity, degree of similarity will be less. But if the ancestor lived 10 years ago or 100 years ago, the number of similarities will be more. But similarities do exist. And yes, of course, populations of different species or population of the same species. So number of similarities between individuals of the same species would be, quite high in comparison to the population, in comparison to the, populations that are of different species. So this was Darwin's thing, and people have proved it, and it is true. Okay. So he also said that the evolution that means evolution means how the things have changed over the years. So this evolution in life forms, it happened quite gradually. It is not a instantaneous process. It happens gradually. And many life forms that have become extinct, means the ancestors who are not living anymore, um, and many life forms that are, arising, means these all happened at different periods of the time, okay, during the history or during the existence of earth. So you must have seen images of how from chimpanzees humans evolved, right? So it happened gradually over the time, and people actually distributed the time into different eras and periods, epochs, etc. So those who actually study more deeply the subject of evolution, they know how to do that, okay, and they do that through various kind of analysis techniques like carbon dating, etc. So they actually give um, or assign what was at what time that particular organism lived through fossils. If the organism leave behind any fossils, then by analyzing by carbon dating that particular fossil, they can date and place that particular organism at which period of the earth they existed. Okay, so in this way, the process is evolution process happens gradually. And if so within a population, there are various kind of individuals. Now few individuals have few different characteristics, slightly different characteristics, or you can say slightly um, have variations. They have variations which are present in only a few of the members of that particular population. Now, it may so happen that these variations or slightly different characteristics may help these individuals to survive better in the present natural environment. Okay, like for example, there are few in the population who are very much susceptible to cold, where a few, 4 or 5 of them out of 100, they are not that much affected by cold. Now suddenly temperature drops, and drops to say extreme temperature drop is there. So in that particular conditions, people who are not that much um, capable to survive in this cold temperature, they will move towards, dying. They will develop hypothermia, and then they will, freeze to death. Whereas people who are, more equipped or have the characteristic to, resist the cold, they will have a better chance of survival in this cold environmental condition or in cold climate. Similarly, food habits. Okay, so suddenly there is a drought, and there is some group of people who only eats vegetables. Okay, So they will not be able to, survive because because of drought there is no plants. So those whereas out of 100, 4 5 of them who are okay with eating meat, so they will kill livestock and keep themselves healthy and survive this particular drought condition. So these kind of variations become very handy in supporting the survival of few individuals in the population. Okay, and suppose this happens, what happens is that the people who survived better in that particular environmental condition, they would outbreed others. Means they would have more chances to um, mate and reproduce and bring and increase the generation, increase their lines. Okay, increase their family name, have more and more generations in the family. Whereas those who didn't survive that particular extreme condition, okay, uh, their family name no one would know after 10 years, 15 years. Okay, so uh, this this is called what I've explained. This is called the fitness. Okay, fitness of an individual or a particular population. And by fitness, I mean reproductive fitness. So those individuals within the population who had some built-in variations or built-in slightly different characteristics, they could survive better under a challenging environmental condition, because of which they survived this particular challenging conditions and mated and reproduced and created more and more offsprings of their family line. So these individuals are more fit or more reproductive fit. And those who are more reproductive fit, okay, they would obviously leave more progenies. And these progenies are more likely to survive and reproduce and create their, and increase their family line. So we can say that this particular characteristics or variation is actually selected by nature, because nature, uh, uh, the environmental condition, it was modulated by the nature. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't intervene to change this particular environmental condition. Nature imposed on us randomly at any point of time and challenged the survival. Those who were better equipped with the particular variation, they survived and increased the family line, and those who didn't survive, the family line died with them. Okay, and whoever are the progenies of that particular surviving family line, these progenies will increase the number of people in the population with the same particular characteristic that helped them survive initially. Okay, so this particular group of people, say 100 people, okay, from this particular family line, they are selected by nature, and they will now continue their particular species or their particular family line. Now, this process, how by which the nature selects a particular variation, a particular trait, okay, to survive, is called natural selection. And Darwin said that natural selection is the mechanism of evolution, or through natural selection, new species or new populations, they survive. Okay. So let me again give you another example to understand natural selection, okay, and survival of the fittest example. Okay, so the fittest, you must have heard this term. So take the example of giraffes, okay, and how giraffes came to have very long necks. So in the past, giraffes had short necks. So you can see these two, they had short necks. So so they can easily reach the branches of the tree that were at the lower side. Okay, whereas some giraffes within the population of giraffe, they had slightly longer neck than the average. So this is the individual, or this is the giraffe who have a slightly longer neck. So now he can reach the branch which are at slightly top of the tree. And giraffes only eat from the tree leaves. They don't graze on the grasses like cows and other cattle, etc. Now, what happened? Nature challenged. Okay, nature challenged how uh, the tree leaves, the other tree leaves that these giraffes, this population of giraffes, they were feeding on, uh, stopped, producing any leaves in the lower branches. The lower branches of the trees, there were no leaves. So the giraffes who had a shorter neck, uh, they were, their survival was challenged. How would they eat if they can't reach the tree leaves? Whereas the giraffes who were longer in height or had a longer neck, they could now they could now reach the leaves that were at the top. So their survival or their existence was challenged. So those giraffes who couldn't eat because they couldn't reach the tree leaves, they died. All right. Whereas the giraffes with slightly longer than average neck, they had the advantage, and so they survived and produced more and more progeny. So they were fit. Okay, they were more fit than the others in the population, and because of which they, their progenies who also had the same characteristic of longer neck, they increased in number, and they all could now eat leaves which were at the higher branches of the tree. So over the period of time, uh, the long neck trait actually became the normal. Okay, in with means in among the 100 giraffes, all the giraffes had long neck, which we now see. So that is how natural selection works. And within the natural selection process, whoever is having the characteristic or the variation to survive the challenging environmental condition, they will, they will reproduce, okay, and leave behind more and more progenies. And these progenies will now survive better the given natural conditions, given environmental conditions. So over the period of time, this is how, new species, or even new species at the extreme point, new species can evolve. So that's all for today's class. Thank you.